Hi, everybody. This is Peter Cipkowski, and today we have a special guest, the director of the Roe Jan Community Library, Tammy Gaskell. Thank you for joining us, Tammy. It's about time we talk to you.
Thank you, Peter. I really enjoyed all the interviews you've done, so I'm looking forward to this one too.
Well, thank you for hosting these on the library website. And why don't we start the way we usually do, Tammy, and ask you to tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I've been in Hillsdale, well, it's been over 2 years now. I started here at the library in March of 2018, I guess it is now, and moved here at the same time in April. I bought a house in Hillsdale. Before that, I was in Philadelphia, where I was, well, actually I was in New Jersey and then Philadelphia before that. I'm a historian by training, so I was at the Historical Society of Pennsylvania for many, many years as their director of publications, where I did editing a journal, a magazine, oversaw digital history projects, oversaw their fellowship program, a variety of things. From there, I moved to Rutgers, where I was a public historian in residence, where I started a historic preservation program and a continuing ed program, and where I also edited a journal in public history. So my background, you might wonder how I ended up at the library then.
Yeah, I want to ask you. So what brought you to a directorship of a library? I love it.
Well, so I actually, I spent my life in libraries, but mostly as a user, not on the other side. Though prior to moving to Philadelphia, I was in Memphis for a year, 3 years. 3 years. I worked as a reference librarian at the Memphis Public Library, a branch of the Memphis Public Library. I also served in Philadelphia on our library board, so I was a board member for our public library. So I've had an interest in public libraries. I really enjoyed working at the public library when I did. I've been a public library user my whole life. But other than that, my career, I've done a lot of things that are related, and this sort of brought them all together. I've done budgeting, I've done managing people, I've done grant writing, public programming. So all of that kind of comes together in this job here. And it seems like a very good fit to me.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Your background is so interesting. How did you hear about the opportunity here at the Roe Jan Library?
Yeah, how did I come from Philadelphia to Roe Jan? I actually grew up in Rensselaer County. I went to East Greenbush Public Schools. I grew up in Nassau, right on the border of Columbia County. I went to school in Western Massachusetts at Amherst College. So this area is familiar to me. I was looking to come back home. I was looking to come back to help. My parents still live in Rensselaer County. My brothers still live in the area. And my parents are aging and my mother has Alzheimer's. And I was coming up a lot just to help out with the family, and decided, you know what, why don't I just move up here? I really like it up here. I'm not really a city person. I'm an outdoors person. I like to hike, I bike, I kayak. So this place just feels like home.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky. So I was looking for jobs generally, managing historical sites, things like museums, historical societies, libraries. And this came up, and it just, like I said, it felt like a really good fit. So
yeah. So the Roe Jan Community Library is, it's like a community center, right? And I don't know, a repository for so much information and history in the community as well. So how do you think your background supports, reflects, enhances, the mission of the community library?
Well, I think, being trained, I have a PhD in history, not in library science, but I decided early on I didn't want to go in the academic route. I was public history. And public history is very much like working at a public library, in that you're working with the public, trying to develop programs, not just for them, but with them. It's all about community outreach, which I think is the main focus of public libraries these days. Certainly if this one, we want to reach out and work with the community and develop programs with them, not just for them. And so I think that that background was what attracted me to public libraries and what made the board, I think, think that I might be a good fit as well.
What do you think has been?
And so, yeah, I was going to say last year, as you know, we did a series of community conversations, trying to learn more about the community. For me, that was incredibly helpful because I was relatively new to the community to get to know, the concerns and the people and the hopes. And those were incredibly helpful for me. And what I learned most is that people wanted community and they wanted connection. And they saw the library as a place that could help foster that. And that's certainly what I hope this library can be. It's been more challenging in the last few months to be that. We can't be a gathering place, right now, the way we had hoped to be or the way we had been. But I hope we get back there in the future.
I have no doubt we will get there. Tammy, so you've been at the library now for a couple of years, and those conversations that you had were great. I enjoyed being part of that conversation, and I know that you talked to a wide range of folks across the spectrum in the community. Other than the fact that the library is sort of the center of the community, what other kinds of big ideas came out of that? What other sort of things that are challenges, and what other things that are sort of winning elements of a library system?
Well, I think other than being a gathering place just for people that have programs or hang out and be together, I think the library, people are looking for information. And of course, libraries are centers of information and disseminate information. So it's a natural fit for us to try to fill that desire for some more centralized knowledge hub. We talk about ways we can improve our website to get information to people more efficiently, or is there some sort of community calendar we want to put together that people have one place to go to find information about what's happening in the area, or some kind of community newsletter or newspaper. These are things we're beginning to explore because we've heard over and over again that that's what people wanted. There's all kinds of information out there, but how do I navigate it all in an efficient way? People don't want to go to 20 different websites to find out what's going on this weekend, or where do I go for the sort of service that I need? So we're going to try to build out our website to provide more of that information for people. What else we learned? Also just a facilitator of conversations on topics of interest. Things like affordable housing came up over and over again, or the lack of jobs for young people who are moving out of the area. I mean, those aren't areas that the library can directly impact, but we can certainly be a place where people can have conversations about those kinds of issues.
Yeah. What sort of relationship do you have with the larger library system? Are we part of the Mid-Hudson?
We are part of the Mid-Hudson system, which is 66 libraries. The directors from those libraries meet monthly, which is an incredible resource. I mean, it's 5 counties. So people here, even this small corner of Southeast Columbia County, have access to materials from a large geographic area, and libraries much larger than ours. We also have a Columbia County Directors Association, and we meet monthly also. So we're coordinating more and more as a county. And that, I think, has been especially true during these last few months with COVID crisis. I mean, without the system support, both at the county level and at the system level, it would have been much more difficult for all of us sort of navigating this whole thing by ourselves. Yeah, it's an incredibly, people say over and over, it's the best system in the state, and I believe that it is. It's really a very supportive system.
What about funding? I know that at the county level, the directors appear at a committee to request their annual support.
Right.
And the county, of course, does funnel money to the library system in the county.
Yeah.
Talk broadly about how the library is funded, if you would.
Well, our library is unusual in the system. I would say, I think on average, most libraries in the system and throughout the state, about 80% of funding comes from public sources, and that includes local monies through things like the 414 referendum that people pass in their towns, or through state tax money, county tax money, there's different kinds of libraries. So, but in general, it's about 80% comes from public funding. In our case, that's only 40%. We
Wow.
have a long way to go in that regard. So
Why
we are
is that?
very, why? Well, we have 3 towns, and not all 3 towns have passed the 414. And we haven't gone back regularly to ask for increases of those towns that have passed it. I think in part because they want to make sure all 3 towns are on board before doing that. Other than that, we also have a very generous population though. So fortunately, we have been very successful in fundraising and in grant writing. So 60% of our budget comes from, fundraisers like the gala they have every year, annual appeals. They do a National Library Week solicitation, and we write grants. We're pretty successful in writing grants, primarily for programs. Grants don't generally pay for operating costs, turning lights on or paying for staff. So that we really do need to get more public funding to have that stable base for the general operating expenses.
And the gala, of course, would have happened in June.
Would have been last month.
That did
right.
not happen. So how are you guys compensating for that, and how is that going?
So we didn't have the gala, right? So we did a general appeal instead, asking people to, support us anyway and buy tickets, even though they weren't coming to any event. It's been pretty successful. We did pretty well. We had some very generous donations on top of that. So I think we're going to be okay this year. I'm a little worried about next year. We don't know what the budgets will look like next year. There will still be another annual appeal at the end of the year. But so far, I think we also were able to get a payroll protection program loan, which will turn into a grant. So that has helped us, meet what we would have gotten from the gala this year.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, the gala was a big loss, but we also didn't have the expenses. So we didn't have to raise quite as much because we didn't have the expenses. But
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, before we talk about COVID and the challenge that you've had, just a day-to-day, this is a library as well as a community center and programming and all. What about book acquisition? I've always wondered, and I'm sure others do too. Like, how does that work? Are you selecting how to expand the collection?
I am doing it for the adult collection. We have somebody else who is looking at the children's collection and passing along to me what she would like to order. I look at a variety of things. You can check our catalog and see what the high demand holds are and what people want. We also can look at things like, there's all kinds of reviews out there and journals and magazines for librarians to help them in selecting materials. You look at the New York Times bestseller list. You look at a wide variety of library journal, school library journal, things like that that'll help you select. And also just getting to know your patron base and what they see, what goes in and out, what they want. And people can make requests, and we often fill them. Also, just looking at, we need to weed as well as weed is our term for getting rid of things, deaccessioning. Because you can't keep adding and never take anything out. We have limited space. And some things get dated or worn out. So we need to do that regularly too. And right now we really need to do that. Our stacks are pretty crowded right now.
What happens to that stuff?
In doing that, you get a sense of what has been circulating and what isn't. And then have a better sense of, people really like to read biographies, or people are really taking out cookbooks, or, we need more materials on, resume writing. You get a sense of what is in demand.
What happens to the parts of the collection that are deaccessioned? Is that the word, deaccessioned?
Yeah, deaccessioned. Yes. We offer them to people for free. Often they just go out in the lobby and people can take them if they want them. Some of them we take to Better World Books. It's a collection of books that go to prisons and other social causes, so that they're recycled through, unless they're in really bad shape, and then they go in the recycling.
Can you tell us a little bit about the relationship the library has with friends of the Roe Jan Library?
Yeah, so we have a really terrific friends group. I guess they've been around for many, many years now, and they have a very successful bookshop that's in the basement of the library. So the purpose of the Friends is to raise money for the library, and they do it primarily through their bookshop. They have done a few other events to raise money as well, but it is the bookshop, which meets, well, they're open generally in the summer every Saturday, and then the rest of the year, one Saturday a month. Now they've been closed since mid-March, and I believe they now are just starting again to let people make donations by appointment only, and then we'll see in the fall if they are able to open on a limited basis. And they wanted to see kind of how it goes with the library first before they open their bookshop.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a crucial
program.
support for us.
Yes, they are, and they're run by a group of evangelists who really believe in the mission of the library.
They do. They're our biggest supporters.
Yes, they are. And I know that they've been central to the gala also, and often recognized at the gala. Yep. Programming has always been such a great component of the library in its new iteration. In your new building.
In the new building, yeah.
Yeah, because you've got that great space. I've gone to some wonderful concerts there. I've heard some great people speak. Will that continue? And how does COVID now help? How does that inform your plan for the future?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, so we aren't having any in-person programs right now. We quickly learned how to do some stuff virtually using Zoom like we are now. We started doing some of our ongoing programs, like we have a senior exercise program that meets weekly. They've been doing that on Zoom once a week since March. Our story time, weekly story time, has also been virtual. We did a virtual craft time also for kids. And the summer reading program right now is all virtual. We have some performers who are doing things virtually, as well as craft and story time activities all through the summer, which we're doing in collaboration with some other libraries in the area. Yeah, concerts are tough because they have a lot of people come, and we can't do that right now. We've talked about outdoor programs, but we're not quite sure about that yet. It's so contingent on weather and with kids programs especially, can we really enforce social distancing with the kids? We don't know. We are going to try our first outdoor story time this week, so we'll see how that goes. And,
interesting.
And see if we are able to start doing some smaller programs outside. But I think, we're all hoping to get back to doing a lot of those programs that we are known for, like the concerts and the big programs. But I think going forward, there's probably going to be a hybrid. Why not continue, some of these online programs? They work in very well for some things. We have a reading and discussion program right now going on through the summer on women's suffrage in recognition of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. And because it's online, we're able to bring in some of the authors of the books to talk with us. We're able to have people who are our patrons but are out of the area right now participate with us as well. If it was in person, we couldn't do that. So there are some advantages to the online format. It works well for that. It's working pretty well for the exercise program, I have to say. People, it's a regular crew that's there every week. They enjoy seeing each other, even if it's on a screen. And they feel safe because they're in their own homes.
And you also have Story Walk, which is a way for families to get together safely. Tell us a little bit about that program.
We've done our first Story Walks this year, and I think
which is not virtual. It's not virtual.
No, they are outside. Instead of sitting in front of a screen all the time, you can go outside for a walk. So what they are is we've taken a children's book and taken the pages of those books and put them on on boards that are on stakes in the ground throughout. We have 2 walks right now. One is at the Roe Jan Park across the street from the library. And another one is along the rail trail in Copake Falls. That's actually going to move this weekend from there to the rail trail between Underhill and Black Grocery Road. So it'll just be in a new location, and maybe we'll get some new people out to see them. So they've been very popular. I've gone out to sort of check on them, and I run into even adults who are like, these are great. And I think we wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for the COVID, probably, and trying to think creatively about how we can, reach kids and continue some programs. But why not continue to do them? I think we will. Why not do them next year? There's no reason not to.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. And you're promoting literacy and
a love of learning. Outside and exercising and enjoying nature. And
yeah.
So there's also some, we're doing it, but the county libraries are doing them collaboratively with the Columbia Land Conservancy too. So several of the Land Conservancy parks, including in Drowned Land Swamp in Ankrum, have story walks as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So the library completely closed in March, understandably, as everything did. I mean, essentially,
I would say the building completely closed.
Sorry.
The library is more than a building, and the library did not close.
I stand corrected. You just explained how things have continued virtually and so on. What will reopening look like? I know you're already in the process of reopening. Describe that process to us.
Yeah, so I guess it was June 17th. We closed on March 17th to the public. The building closed on March 17th. We reopened for curbside service on June 17th. So, 3 months later. Now another month after that. So we've been doing curbside service for a little more than a month now, and that's been going pretty well. You may hear, I'm at the library now, and you may hear the phone ringing in the background. Mm-hmm. That's people either coming to schedule pickup of books, or to come to say they're here and please bring them out to me. We are going to be reopening for limited access to patrons next week. We will be letting 8 people in at a time to browse and check out materials. They are not going to be able to just sit here and read, or their toys are all removed from the children's area, because we can only have 8 people at a time, and we want to let people in and out so more people can come in. We are going to have the public computers available, though, that people can reserve and use for an hour at a time. I know that's something that people have been asking for and needing. This area, a lot of people don't have internet access. Some people don't have devices. So, that's one thing. During this whole period, our parking lot has generally had somebody in the parking lot using our Wi-Fi, especially when school was still in session and the students needed access to Wi-Fi. But some need more than access to Wi-Fi. They need computers too. So that will be available starting next week.
When do you have any sense of what the next phase of reopening would be beyond 8 people in the building?
Well, I mean, we'll see how this goes for a while, and maybe we'll gradually increase the number of people that come in at a time. The next phase after that would be putting. Right now, if you come in, it looks very bare. The furniture has been moved so that computers are far apart, so that there aren't chairs around for people to sit in and read a magazine. It's very bare. So we'd be bringing that stuff back out so people can sit around and study and read and converse or play mahjong or whatever else they want to do. So that would be the next phase. And then the final phase, when we can finally bring back in-person inside programs, I think will be the last thing that comes back.
It's interesting. I mean, organizations, arts institutions, and so on have canceled their programming through the fall and even through next spring. So it is hard to forecast. Yeah,
I mean, when we closed, we thought we were closed for two weeks, and now it's 4 months.
Yeah. Tammy, you and I talked about this series that we're now participating in together, conversations with community leaders, who, not necessarily leaders, just folks in the community who are representative of the kind of stuff we're all going through as we endure this pandemic. Have you had any feedback or any thoughts in response to this series of conversations?
Yeah, I mean, people have been positive about them. I found that, yeah, they learn things that they didn't know about their community, about the people in it. So, you know, we look at the statistics of how many people, librarians are always looking at statistics, how many people have viewed them, and it's, you know, maybe 500 people last month, which to me sounds like quite a few people. So I think they are, yeah, reaching an audience. And then I have had some people responding, yes, that I didn't know that about that person, or I didn't know about that organization, or so I think that's served a purpose. And it's also just a historical interest too, I
Yes.
think.
Right.
Yeah, it's, you know, we're in a particular moment of time in its local community, and how is this one community, you know, dealing with this global phenomenon.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I've had some emails from folks who are far flung now, who are part of the community, you know, subscribe to the, you know, the library newsletter or the various newsletters in our adjacent towns, and they love being connected. And it is true, some people are hearing stuff that they hadn't known before, seeing people they know, being connected. But you and I both were excited about the idea of being able to record the moment for the future, far off in the future, right?
Right, right.
As historians.
So, yes, we'll have to find a way to preserve them beyond on YouTube, yes. Yeah, but yeah, it's, you know, history is local, and if we don't preserve it now, you know, we'll regret it later.
Tammy, I know you have another meeting to run to, but I want to ask you like a vision for the future, like your wish list. Like, what would you hope, and your colleagues at the library, I know you work with a whole team of folks and have a board, like what is the big vision ultimately? What would you wish most for the library in the future down the road?
Well, I think coming out of those community conversations that we had last year, you know, I was trying to begin to re-envision the space of the library to make it meet the needs that we heard. Maybe make it spaces for small groups to meet. You know, we don't really have that. We have a conference room, but it's not, you know, just for informal gatherings, more space for that. What else? Working more collaboratively with other organizations throughout, you know, the area, whether it's the Historical Society or the Grange or the Land Conservancy, or I think definitely want to do more of that and sort of be more of a community center and more connected and engaged in that way. During this pandemic, I think you mentioned connection, and one of the things we did was we called seniors. I ran a list of all of our patrons who were, you know, over 60, and we just started calling people and checking in on them and seeing how they were doing. And that was probably the most important thing we did for the first month that the building was closed, in that people really needed to talk. They wanted connection. They needed help sometimes. You know, we could, you know, refer them to where you could get delivery services, or where you could, you know, get who did curbside pickup, and, you know, just computer help. We provided computer help and stuff too, getting people connected on their devices, because now that was how you had to connect with everybody, was through your internet or reading online materials, or, you know, Kindles, getting their Kindles set up. So we did a lot of that in the first month, and I think we felt really gratified because people seemed very grateful for the reaching out and the sense of connection, and it just reinforced how important that outreach and connection is. And so I think that's going to have to be an ongoing part of what the library is about.
Wonderful. Well, Tammy, thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you for hosting these conversations overall, and especially for, you know, for your leadership and steering the direction of the library. Well,
thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate them, and I'm looking forward to a few more.
Sounds good. I look forward to it as well.
All right.
Well, thank you, Tammy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.